Before we start with the Lightwright tutorial proper, there's a couple of things just to get ready. So I created a Waiting for Godot folder with a few files in them using a referenced file structure. So in Waiting for Godot, which you can download from Teams, you get a venue file. I've downloaded the currently latest Chandler for the exercise, and created a little lighting folder. In it, I've created a lighting file, which is basically a very basic one layer file that references the venue in, which is what we use to create our lighting in. So if you download this package, you'll get the basic Waiting for Godot lighting plan to start with, and the referenced venue file. So ideally, probably best put that on your desktop or somewhere in your documents locally on your computer to work with. So now we're going to start up Lightwright. Lightwright 6, when you first install it, comes with a few very useful files. It's going to just ask me to update to a beta, which I don't want to do. I'll press OK for that. Every time it opens up for the first time, by default the tooltips are turned on. You can turn these off if you want to, but it's quite interesting every now and again for them to pop up. You might find something new that you didn't know about yet. As I was saying, it comes installed with a few basic files, which you can find through the help menu. There are various new feature summaries, the reference manual, a very, very useful place. There's also a tutorial which is different from the tutorial that we're going through. It has a different workflow at its heart, so I recommend that you use my tutorial for the workflow that we use at the RCS, because it starts with a Vectorworks file that gets referenced across, whereas the Lightwright 6 tutorial that's included here starts with a Lightwright file and shows you how to add lanterns into the Lightwright files, which is not really a workflow that I would use as a designer, and it's not the one that I recommend you use. So once you've closed your tooltip, you end up with a blank sort of spreadsheet. Now, Lightwright is designed as a piece of software that handles information. And it's really powerful because it synchronizes live with your Vectorworks file, and we'll go into more detail how that works later. So this data exchange makes handling information like your color call or your gobos or your dimmer assignments really simple, because you can either, whatever is easier in any situation, enter the information in Vectorworks and it synchronizes live across into your Lightwright file, or you can enter it in Lightwright and it synchronizes live across into Vectorworks. And there are some pieces of information that are easier to enter in one or the other. So it can speed creating creating paperwork up massively, which is why I really like using it. It is written by an American programmer. Some of the vocabulary is therefore by default American, but it's very customizable, so you can create your own version, your own vocabulary. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. So I'm going to go into setup and have a look at vocabulary. Now by default it will say NC for no color. That's standard American notation. I don't particularly like that. I prefer the British open white. So I'm going to make that current, but also I'm going to make it my default, because next time I want to open a new file I want it to be open white as well. The footnote key phrase is note. I'm going to leave that as it is. Gobo, again, the T in American stands for template. I prefer the G, which is what we use in Britain for Gobo. Scroll key phrase, scroll, wheel key phrase, wheel, that's all fine. We'll leave that. These separation signs are basically there to help Lightwright later on know what to count separately when it does automatic counting that you're going to use. So I will leave all of these as a default and press OK. So that's my vocabulary set. the next thing I'm going to do is set up my show. So in setup, I have a show title and page header. Now the show title in our case is Waiting for Godot, and where it says information for long headers, this is something that will later automatically appear on your paperwork. So this is where I'll put in things like who the lighting designer is. Maybe I'll put the designer on there as well. And we'll put a director in, just so we have a few things. You can put in here whatever you would like. Okay. And that's it. You don't have to press OK or save or anything. Anything you enter here is automatically just saved, and you just close it. At this point, I would save the file. Now, Lightwright communicates with Vectorworks through a file that's called an XML file, which Vectorworks generates and live updates information into. And in order to avoid issues later, I would highly recommend that you save your Lightwright file into the same folder as your Vectorworks file, because it means that it doesn't have to search through any subfolders to find the XML file. They're all in the same place. It is possible to separate them and have them in separate folders, but to avoid possible synchronization issues, I think I would always put them in the same place. So I'm just going to press save and put this file, which I'm going to call Waiting for Godot Lightwright, into my Waiting for Godot lighting folder, where I have the Waiting for Godot light plot Vectorworks file. Save it in there, wait for the lovely noise that Lightwright makes, and that's it. So we're now ready to receive our Vectorworks information to start synchronizing the two programs.